We didn't plan to do a full backyard renovation, but when life gets turned upside down and you land in a house that's half working, half abandoned, you just start cleaning, fixing, building, doing whatever you can. Most of what you're about to see was done with what we had. Some borrowed tools, old paint, donated wood, and a whole lot of sweat. This is the full transformation. From moldy concrete to family garden space we actually want to be with. This is grow with nothing. This backyard was rough. Mold on the ground, flaking paints on the walls, slippery when wet, unsafe for a toddler to run around. We knew we wanted to turn this into a garden and family space, but first it needed a deep clean. We found an old water blaster tucked away, missing fittings, not sure if it worked. So first mission, make it usable. I took the connection hose into town and found a piece that fit. Not perfect, but good enough to get us started. We ran a long power cord through a window because the power outlets outside haven't worked in years. This house is a bit of a maze. Multiple dwellings, some empty, others half used. But today, this patch of concrete is getting its first reset in years. Once the water hit the ground, it was like watching years of grime lift away. Green sludge peeled off like old skin. Moss, dust, dead leaves, gone. It wasn't glamorous. I got soaked. Everything around us got wet. But the difference? Instant.
Go. Yay!
Right here. Down here. Then we found this old cupboard full of old paint buckets. 3 white, 1 pale blue. No label, half dried out, but still, paint is paint. This back patio needed something. The walls were peeling, the columns were only half painted. Honestly, it looked abandoned. But after scraping back those loose bits and giving it a good clean, we had a plan. We didn't want everything to look perfect. Some concrete walls we actually left raw. The old paint and patches kind of gave it personality. But the columns, the cleaning station, and this wall here, we gave it a fresh coat. The pale blue ended up being perfect for that little door, and that's step 2. Just enough to break the space up without going full colour block. Sol helped, obviously. She mostly painted the pot plants and my already finished walls. But hey, it's all part of it. We've been growing food on concrete. No soil, just buckets, scrapes, and prayers. But we wanted more space, something that felt like a real garden. So it was time to build our own planter boxes. We had no fancy blueprint, just an idea, some recycled timber, and an old tape measure. I made 2 shallow boxes, 1200 mils by 600 mils, 200 mils deep. But the more I looked at the old scrap wood boxes, the more I wanted to build bigger, deeper boxes. After all, we don't just want to plant a couple of plants and be done with it. We want to grow food. And plants that produce food need space. They need depth. The plan? 3 big planter boxes. I can put those 2 small boxes on top of each other and buy wood to make 2 more big boxes. Luckily, in Ecuador, it's not expensive to get the kind of wood that I'm after. Rough sawn, mismatched, but close enough. We found a place not too far from us, 4-meter lengths for just $6. Happy as. But we were in a car, and 4 meters would be a smidge too long. So I tweaked the design. They were happy enough to cut the wood to size. So I got some at 1 metre and some at 2 metres, assuming I could fit it in the car. And luckily for me, I could. Just. I got the wood back home and got to work. Putting them all together wasn't too hard, but I definitely think I need to buy some power tools. The lengths of wood were roughly all 200 mils wide, but I wanted 400 mils for the depth of my boxes. So I built 2 big rectangles and stacked them on top of each other to make one big box. 2 of my planter boxes are 2 meters by 1 meter and 400 millimeters deep. The other one, from recycled lengths, is 1200 by 600 and 400 deep. Now, I'm not a gardening expert, but my background in carpentry and construction tells me that concrete is going to pull the water out of the soil that's in the boxes, and hot concrete is going to do it even faster. So I lined the bottom of the boxes with black plastic. But we needed some drainage holes, because as I'm learning, not many plants like soggy roots, so drainage holes went in. And next, soil. I used ChatGPT to work out how much soil I needed. Sure, I can do the maths myself, but ChatGPT can do it faster. So off to our favourite shop to buy a fuckload of soil. 3 trips. I spread it out over 3 days because traffic here is a killer, and every time I get back home from somewhere, I need time to mentally recover before I want to go on the road again. Eventually, we got all the soil in, and it was time to start transplanting.
What are you making?
I'm moving the plants from the little box into our big one so that they can grow nice and big for us.
Whoa, yeah, you go to the plant.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what some of the plants are. At this point, broccoli, cauliflower and cabbage all look very similar, so I planted them all in the same area. It's not going to matter long term. I put them with carrots, my garlics and onions that I grew from offcuts, and there's a few flowers scattered around as well. The other big box has my tomatoes that I harvested the seeds from, also some marigolds, the basil plant that I bought, and a green pepper seedling that I also harvested the seed from. I put my little chili plant in there as well, and another pepper plant that we found in a pot around the front that someone had forgotten about. In the smaller box, I put some of my watermelon seedlings that I harvested, in with some marigolds. We still have heaps of other pots around with other experiments. We've got mint, rosemary, lavender. I put a few potatoes into pots to try. Took some seeds from strawberries and papaya, so I'll try those as well. We have a pineapple slowly doing its thing, I think. The lemongrass we got donated, and 2 big oregano plants that were already here. It was slow, messy, hot, but at the end of it, we have real garden beds. Not perfect, not symmetrical, but sturdy enough to hold dreams, soil, and possibly a few weeds. I don't know if we built them right, but we built them, and that counts for something. We had this back patio space that was half mouldy concrete, half ideas. We water blasted, we scraped paint, we swept, we painted, and we planted. And we got this awesome chair. It was starting to feel cozy, but we needed something else. Something every Kiwi wants in their backyard. Now I can't have a backyard as such, but I can have a deck, or so help me God. So we decided to build a deck. We didn't have a budget. We didn't have much wood, but we did have a few old pallets from a friend. That's where we started. He had a surplus of pallets at his factory and said he could drop them off. I didn't know how many would come. Turns out it was heaps. And this big box. But I figured I could pull that box apart for scraps, and I could use those scraps to level off the pallets as the base of my deck. So that's what we did. We measured out the space, laid down the pallets like puzzle pieces, and adjusted everything to level as best we could. Nothing was perfect, but we weren't aiming for perfect. Then came the top boards. We borrowed one of the uncle's trucks, and we found a place that sells rough cuts of wood that was cheap but solid. I cut all the scraps for the pallet base with an old handsaw. I wasn't going to do that for the rest of the deck. I wasn't going to screw them all down with the screwdriver that I use for the boxes either. So we bought some tools. Now it was time to finish the deck. When the timber's wet like this, it's so fucking hard to cut because it binds on the blade. And I've just got this short, shitty blade, but hey, this is what we do. It took me an afternoon to lay the pallets out and level them. It took me the morning and some of the afternoon to cut the boards and screw them all down. I built this step because with the slope the ground was on, it ended up being a lot higher than I expected. Now the patio looks a little less like mess and a little more like a place. The deck isn't polished. It's not beautiful, but it's strong, sturdy, and handmade. This is where we'll drink coffee, dry herbs, and watch our daughter run around barefoot. It started with pallets, and it's turning into a home. This is Grow with Nothing. Welcome. It's not just about building garden beds or decks. It's about taking what's in front of you and doing something with it. A little cleaner, a little more functional, a little more hours. So if you're sitting on a messy yard or a forgotten patio, wondering where to start, this is your sign. Do one thing, then the next. Build with what you've got. This is Grow with Nothing. Welcome.